Today we're building a responsive list detail extra 3-pane layout using Jetpack Navigation 3's new scene strategy. I'll show you how to manage navigation with a shared backstack so your app smoothly adapts across phones and tablets. These are the dependencies that you need. I've just included them in the build.gradle file so we can easily see the versions. This is the important library to take note of for adaptive navigation. Note that at the time of recording this is currently a snapshot build, so you'll need to go into your settings.gradle and add the following lines here and here. So for the setup we've got 4 screens. They're listed here. They're all encapsulated within this notes module and we don't need to worry about their implementation. For the backstack we're using the remember nav backstack function. This was covered in my first video on Navigation 3. I'll link that in the description and I'd recommend looking at that first. The first thing we need to add is our list detail strategy. We can get that using the remember list detail scene strategy function. We give this type of our root classes. This could just be any. In our case we're using nav key so that we can use remember nav backstack. So we'll just use nav key here. At the time of recording this is experimental, so we'll just opt into that. And then we can just pass it into our nav display. So we can do that using the scene strategy parameter and pass that in. One thing I'm going to remove is this implementation of the onBack parameter. If we click into this, we can see that it's being provided a count here. Now the scene strategy handles all of that for us. So for example, if we've pressed 3 different detail screens from the list down the left hand side, they'll all be added to the backstack. Once the back button's pressed, 3 will then be passed into here and it'll pop all the way back to the root. So we'll just remove this and use the default implementation. Now we need to declare which of the screens are list panes, which are detail panes and which are extra panes. So we can do that inside of these entry functions. There's a parameter named metadata and we can pass the value of list detail scene strategy dot, and we have access to extra pane, detail pane and list pane. So in our case this note list is the list pane, and we'll do the same for the detail, apart from this time it's going to be the detail pane. And our note edit, we want this to pop in from the right hand side, so this is going to be an extra pane. Now this is already mostly functional. I'll just run this to show what it currently looks like. So as you can see, the notes list takes up the full screen, but when we tap into one we now have a detail pane and the list pane, and if we tap to edit we can see that the edit comes in as an extra pane from the right hand side. So if I press the back button, it'll come back to here and back again, just comes back to the notes list. Now this is fine for a lot of cases, but there are some things we can do differently. The first thing, we can make it so that the detail pane is always visible and give a detail placeholder. And the second thing we'll do, if we click into this, we can see that we have our back arrow here. We don't really want this when it's seen as a detail pane, but we still want to see it. For example, if we're on a phone and it's navigated to the detail screen, we want this arrow to be able to go back. So I'll close this and first I'll add the placeholder. So this is quite simple. Within the list pane for the metadata, we have a parameter named detail placeholder. Now this is just a composable block and we can pass in whatever we want. I'll just simply add a box here, and inside this box I'll just put some text saying to choose a note from the list. So we'll run this, and as you can see we've now got this placeholder, and if I go into here so we can see the detail and then press back, it takes us back to the placeholder. So now we want to get rid of this back arrow, so I'll close this, and within the note detail screen we have a parameter named show back button. Now we only want this back button to show if the detail screen is the only screen visible. because if it's the only screen visible, then we know we need to be able to go back out of it. So we can use the list details strategy for this, use the directive, and if we look at max horizontal partitions, if this is equal to 1, in other words, only one pane can fit on the screen horizontally at one time, we know we need to show the back button. So we'll run this and click enter a note, and as we can see, the back button is not there. Now I'll rotate the tablet, and when this is the only screen, we can see that we now have the back button. So you might have noticed a problem there. If we go back into landscape and click a few of these, yes, if we press the back button, the scene strategy handles coming back to the placeholder for us, but if we then switch to portrait, the back stack's now a little unintuitive for the user, because now when they press back, it cycles through. So to fix this, we can handle the back stack ourselves, since we now have full control with Navigation 3. And to do that, instead of just adding note detail to the back stack, we can get the last item from the back stack. We can check if it's an instance of note detail, and if it is, we'll replace the last item on the back stack with our new note detail, so we're only ever having one note detail at the end of the back stack. So we'll run this again, and we'll start in landscape. We've clicked into a few different details, we'll switch to portrait, and now when we click the back button, we're coming back to the note list. And one last thing to say, you can actually provide back navigation behavior here. So this explains what each of the values do that we can pass in. But note that if you're going to add your own logic in here for adding to the back stack, this will essentially override any of the back navigation provided here.